Okay. Brew, do you want to go first here? Do you want Greg to go? Were you surprised by Philly's blowout?
I mean, I'm surprised they put up a double nickel. Isn't that the most ever?
Wow, Jordan's going to lose all his branding. Philly's got the double nickel. Mahomes going to have the three-peat. Rough week.
It didn't feel like a 32-point game to me. I mean, I thought, we were talking about this earlier, I thought it was close, not close, but I thought the Commanders had a chance into the fourth quarter. When it was 34-23, I was like, because Jaden was moving the ball. And this is what I say about the Commanders. And look, Philly's the better team. All credit to them. They came to play. It was disappointing to see Jaden was one of the few Commanders that was ready for the moment. Terry McLaurin as well. I'll give him credit. But Jaden Daniels played really well. And his veterans, I think his teammates let him down. I thought from the beginning when the guy bobbled the opening kickoff, that shows you, okay, are they ready? And then the first play for the Eagles, Saquon goes 60 yards and breaks 2 tackles. Yeah. Wasn't like he wasn't touched. I mean, great run by Saquon.
I thought Phenomenal. He was down
right there.
Yeah,
I mean, and then it was over. So, and that's not they were driving on most of those fumbles. There was another kickoff fumble that led to a touchdown.
I think the moment you're talking about, Brew, because
at the end of the second quarter.
So it was 34-23 with the ball at midfield, in Jaden's hands, with 30 seconds left in the third quarter, and in that moment, I was like, okay, they're going to score. We're going to have a one-possession game. The Eckler fumble happened, and then it was lights out entirely. So that wasn't it was right before the start of the fourth.
Right, but there was another one before this. That gave them another touchdown. They went up 27-12.
Brown. McNichols fumbled, De'Ami Brown fumbled. My point was they were already down -2 in the turnover battle, Wilds. And despite that, had the ball midfield down 11, and it felt like it hadn't totally gotten away from them. And so I see the look on your face. I don't think Brew's doing this. I'm certainly not trying to do this. I'm not taking anything away from Philadelphia. They were 8 yards of play. You're just not, you know what I mean? Every time they had the ball, they were able to do whatever they wanted. It felt to me like we could have had a game more stylistically similar to Lions Commanders, where it's just like, man, everyone's scoring, except I guess kind of we did. Except this time, instead of the Lions having the 5 turnovers, the Commanders had the 3, and it got away from them.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of saw the game a little different. I was definitely surprised that they blew them out. Simply because third time you're going against this in-division opponent, and so there's a lot of familiarity. You kind of know who one another are. And so I didn't expect a blowout, although I expected Philly to win. But to me, the difference, you say Jaden played great. He played good. I thought their defensive line sped him up for the first time in the postseason.
Yeah.
Like he played a lot faster than what he wanted to. It wasn't like when we watched him against Detroit, which is where most of us who watched the Washington Commanders in the postseason watched them play. He was on his own time.
7-on-7.
It was like he had all the time in the world. He made every throw, pinpoint accuracy. In this game, they sped him up. They got him off his spot, and he missed some throws. I mean, he didn't seem as poised. Now, he still played good enough for them to be effective and make it a closer game. But I was really surprised just the difference in just tenacity that the Eagles played with and urgency than the Commanders. You would have thought that, man, the Commanders, they're the underdogs. They're playing with house money. We're going to just give you everything we got, and that just didn't
And you saw it kind of on that opening drive when they went for all those fourth downs. And then I was a little surprised.
I was so surprised.
They end up kicking a field goal anyway.
I was surprised with that.
On fourth and
See, I did agree with that.
I don't think it was the wrong decision, but I thought once you tell your team we're doing that, going for it on fourth down, we got to go and put the ball in the end zone.
You disagree with us, Wild?
I disagree with everything everybody just said for the last 4 minutes.
Oh.
You ever hear it might be an apocryphal story about the Rolling Stones rider with the M&Ms? Have you ever heard the story?
They only wanted one color, but it was really just to see if people paid attention.
Yeah, you know the story? I'll tell the story since you jumped it. You're supposed to say, no, tell me, Wild.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
So they do M&Ms. They're like, hey, we want a bowl of M&Ms, no yellows. So someone has to go through and pick out all the yellows. So they're able to, not because they dislike the yellow M&Ms, they're able to go in there and see if there's a bowl full of yellow M&Ms. Like, all right, they're not buttoned up. So we got to check all the sound and everything because this team here is not buttoned up because they didn't follow this instruction. If game one, Saquon goes for 146 and catches 40 yards and has 2 touchdowns, and they say, all right, don't do that again. And then in game 2, he has 26 carries, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, all right, playoff time.
First play.
If the first play
right, he
goes for a touchdown, I didn't need to see anything. I was like, this game is over. The stadium went crazy. I didn't need to see the rest of the game. I never thought it was going to be close. Once Saquon is averaging 10 yards a carry, I feel like, you know what? If it ever got dangerous, they could give it ball back to Saquon.
Okay, so
and by the end of the game, he's hitting the night-night. Man, it was night-night as soon as you got the ball.
So can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I think you probably should have gone first. This is a great point. You just made all the way around. The point I was making, and I think maybe Brew's with me on it, is even with all of that, it felt like, man, this is going to be a one-score game early in the fourth quarter, and then you could be a mistake from what kills you if you're a Commanders fan. You got blown out, so maybe you feel like we weren't going to win no matter what. Is you hate the guys who no one in the stadium is wearing their jersey being the ones to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of these players, but like you almost, if you're gonna, you feel different if Jaden just had 2 picks and a fumble. Like he got us here, whatever. When it's McNichols and then Brown and then Eckler, it's like, you know what I mean? And so I agree. And your point about not being able to stop Saquon Wilds is 100% accurate. Like,
and that's why, like, they weren't ready. It showed on their first play, and then all the fumbles.
I don't know if that was a joke. We're debating it upstairs.
Listen, he was awesome in the game. Maybe this is what the Eagles need to just
a little bit of inside.
Yeah, I mean, you just scored 55 points to go back to the Super Bowl, and now I'm just being honest with the audience. I'm like, oh, that relationship doesn't seem great.
No.
And that was, just like when they were rolling, we were like, Saquon's going to break Dickerson's record. AJ's like, the passing needs to be better. I don't know the interpersonal relationships. I do know the next 2 weeks, Big Dom's got a mess on his hands and he better clean it up. But as far as Jalen Hurts' play, that to me was the first playoff game of his career. He played excellent, and they won.
Oh, that they won.
You know what I mean? We argued a lot about Jalen Hurts last week, and I picked the Commanders in part because, well, I didn't think that they were going to give 55 points, but I also didn't think Jalen Hurts was going to have this type of game in him. I thought they were going to force him to throw, which they kind of did, and he wasn't going to be able to do it. He did it, and he ran well, and so, I mean, you're a huge Jalen Hurts guy. I'm still not there, but this was he was awesome in the NFC Championship game. That earns you a lot.
Can I show you a stat? So I asked Josh, put together how good of a last 3 years, from Super Bowl to Super Bowl, Jalen has been. And I know now we're playing with fire a little bit, because he's like, well, when we looked at the wins, Mahomes is the only quarterback in the league with more wins than Mahomes. So we just kind of built out the rest of the statistics. Now, this is going to sound backwards. I don't want this necessarily to become a Mahomes versus Jalen conversation. All I want to do for this specific graphic is to say that Jalen Hurts has been underappreciated in doing the things that it takes to win. He doesn't turn the ball over at all. He set the playoff record again for a streak of not turning the ball over, so here he is. So when you talked about, well, maybe this could become a game, you're a mistake away. Well, the mistake's not coming from him. Now, maybe there's some angst there because of that, but he's playing winning football, bro.
He absolutely is. Look, and I'm not saying anybody's wrong for doing this. I'm done psychoanalyzing their relationships, because I know when Sirianni on the podium, when he got the trophy from Bradshaw, he said, how about my quarterback? He's pretty good. And Jalen was cheesing from ear to ear. Like, that showed me, one, Jalen hears the criticism. And it matters to him. And it mattered that his coach said that. We've been talking about their relationship all year. It seems fine to me. But I will say this. I agree with you. Jalen, his last 4 games, since A.J. Brown criticized him or, we need to improve our passing, these are his stats in his 4 full games. That's Pittsburgh and the 3 playoff games. Like you say, he's not turning the ball over, completion percentage. I thought yesterday he threw it well. I mean, that 4th and 5, I think, to A.J. Brown on the sideline was perfectly
huge,
thrown.
That was a huge play.
Huge play. And you couldn't throw it any better than that. And then the touchdown pass was a nice pass, too, to A.J. Brown in the right corner. Here we go. So like I said last week, Jalen is not like one of the ultra elite passers, but I do believe he's a solid passer and can make big plays with his arm and his legs, and that's what he's done. So I actually think he'll play well in the Super Bowl and give them a chance.
Yeah, I thought Jalen, he deserves respect. He deserves more than what we were giving him. And I don't think there was any disrespect. For me, it was a matter of what we hadn't seen this year. And I get it. You're going to pull up the sample size of his wins and losses and all that. Yeah, he's been great. He's on a really good team, too. But for me this year, we hadn't seen that. I'm with you. That's the best version of Jalen Hurts in the pass game that we've seen all year.
It's the best version that we've seen since the Super Bowl.
And in the postseason, and I disagree. They didn't force him to throw. They didn't need to throw in this game.
That's right.
So for him to be able to do it when not being forced to do it and okay, we got to have you do it, it's going to give them confidence moving forward in this game. And to his point, he feels like this is what I could have been doing the entire season, but it wasn't.